How's it going, YouTube? My name is Kapkan, and in today's video I'm giving you the top 5 defenders for Dread Factor. Let's get into it. Coming in my number 5 spot is going to be Warden. Now, Warden is the second most picked operator on all of defense for PC, Emerald, and above, and there's a reason for that. He's extremely good for new players, and he's very easy even if you're an advanced player. He brings a deployable shield or a nitro cell, depending on which one you would pick, with the added option of the new observation blockers, which can be useful in some certain scenarios if you're trying to counter a smoke plant and you don't want them to know that you're playing Warden. This can be super useful on maps like Coastline, where you're sitting in kitchen trying to counter a glass, and many other examples where you would try to counter a glass with a Warden. The observation blockers can be a pretty good way to make it to where they don't know where you are or what you're trying to do. He also has a 1.5 times scope on an MPX, which is a very low recoil weapon. Put an extended barrel on it and it does a little bit of damage, which is good enough. Usually it's a pea shooter, but pair that with a 1.5 times scope sitting behind the deployable shield and it is a headshot machine as long as you aim head level. Just your mere presence alone makes it to where attackers can't flash or smoke plant into the objective, so you just existing completely takes an entire avenue of play from the attackers that they wouldn't be able to do if you weren't playing Warden. His ability is very straightforward and very easy. All you do is you click a button and you can see through any smokes and you're immune to flash grenades. It's pretty simple and is super easy and good for newer players alike. Coming into my number 4 spot may come as a surprise to some of you, and it's Fenrir. Fenrir is an outstanding operator right now. On release, he was always good. Not only does he have 5 dreadnought mines and 3 activatable ones at a time, but he also has a bailiff for sight setup with an MP7 as his primary gun. Now the MP7 is a great SMG. Low recoil, good amount of damage, good amount of ammo. Pair that up with the fact that your enemies typically won't be able to see you anyways because you're playing off of his gadget correctly. It doesn't really matter what weapon he has. As long as you know which Fenrir gadgets to activate at what time depending on where they're pushing, all you have to do is sit and wait for them to hit your mines, and then once they're blinded, you just swing and kill them. It's a very simple way to play and overall very newer player friendly with an extremely high skill ceiling. He's better than Smoke in my opinion currently right now, especially in solo queue environments. Paired with barbed wire so they can't leave your fear toxin, he's an extremely lethal defender. So I definitely believe that he deserves a spot in the top 5 list. Coming into my number 3 spot is Kapkan. This should be pretty obvious to anybody that's been playing Siege for the past 3 seasons. He was the most banned operator on all of console last season, and he's still pretty high up there this season. Not only that, but he has the ability to just kill people on command without having to actually shoot them because of his Kapkan traps. If you know how to hide these things correctly, they can be extremely lethal, but also if they're not actually hitting the Kapkan traps, they have to look around the map and shoot them, which is a nuisance to the attackers, but it also gives you information whenever you hear them shoot the Kapkan traps. Not to mention, he also has a nitro cell to help you clean up any low HP defenders from your Kapkan traps with a pretty good SMG as well. It has low recoil, high amount of ammo. With an extended barrel, it can actually be pretty good at damage too, and that's why I think he is number 3 on this list. And overall, he's very newer player friendly. As long as you know how to set his traps up, where to set his traps up, how to play off of his traps, and how to play as Kapkan in general, you're gonna have a very good time. It's not all that complicated either. He's very newer player friendly because you just put his Kapkan traps in random places even if you don't know where to put them, and you're bound to get some value off of them. If you're playing Kapkan, it's going to force the attackers to bring an IQ, a Brava, or a Twitch to counter it, or it's going to have to force them to look at doorways, which overall is just a thorn in the attacker's backsides, which is really good for solo queue environments, and that's why I think he deserves a spot in the top 3 of this list. Coming in at my number 2 spot is Solis. Solis is arguably the best roamer in the entire game right now. The reason for this being is because she is able to deny the most amount of intel out of every single intel denier operator in the entire game. She denies more intel than Mozzie, she denies more intel than Mute, than Vigil, and she essentially makes it to where attackers can't have a prep phase and get information on you, especially in close quarters maps, because you can't get your drone in the building without her seeing it. So not only can you not have any drones in the prep phase, but if your teammates do end up droning in, she can kill all those drones, and then she can see all the drones that you use in the attacking phase. She can also see what utility you're using at what exact point. She can counter knock, she can counter IQ. She's able to tell where the team is pushing from, all without having to be on any cameras or use any utility at all. All she has to do is activate her scanner, and she has complete information on literally everything. She can also deny the diffuser from going down by using an impact grenade below where the diffuser is going down and then shooting through the holes that it makes. She can also see when people are droning by seeing their phones and seeing the drone around them, so she can impact below somebody who's droning and kill them for free. And again, the most important thing is that she's able to see exactly what operator you're playing. She's able to see if you're holding an ace charge, if you're an IQ, if you're a knock, if you have a Thatcher in your hand, if you're Dokkaebi calling, whatever it might be. She can counter every single piece of intel and gain a lot of intel in the process with an SMG-11 and impact grenades for the roam, making her extremely powerful. So if you're looking for a good roamer to play this season, Solis is by far the best roamer in the entire game right now. Now, before I go to my number 1 spot, I want to go over 2 honorable mentions. The first honorable mention being Mozzie. Now, Mozzie's still an outstanding roamer, and the thing that's really solidifying him in the honorable mentions list, but not quite in the top 5, is the fact that he has a 1.5 times scope on his P10 Roni. P10 Roni already is an outstanding gun if you know how to manage ammo correctly, but also having having a 1.5 times scope makes him pretty meta. If you don't believe me, take a look at Oryx and Alibi. The second they lost their 1.5 times scope, a lot less people were playing them and they started winning a lot less. But the second that Warden gained a 1.5 times scope, or Mozzie gained a 1.5 times scope, everyone started playing them. So the 1.5 times scope can completely change a meta and make an operator good or not, which is one of the only reasons that Mozzie is on this list. His utility is also straightforward, and the fact that he can deny drones and make them into cameras is super cool, but a lot of people aren't really droning that much, which means he's not necessarily potential to be in the top 5, which is why he's just in the honorable mentions list. If your teammate takes Solis and you still want to roam though, Mozzie is the second best roamer that I can think of. My second honorable mention is Rook. Now, Rook is really good the lower elo and the newer you are to the game, because he puts on an armor pack, and that's literally it. You get all of the value out of Rook by just pressing a button in the beginning of the round. He's very straightforward, very easy, very good for newer players, and the newer you are, typically the newer your enemies are going to be as well, meaning that they're going to hit a lot less heads and they're going to hit bodies a lot, meaning you're going to get downed a lot more than you're going to get killed a lot, meaning you have the ability to self-revive a lot more often in lower elo. Not only is extra health always cool, but self-reviving is really cool as well, especially in lower elo like I just said. One cool thing that he also has is a 2x scope on the MP5. With this high rate of fire of a weapon, with the amount of ammo that it has, with the low recoil that it has, a 2x scope makes this weapon absolutely broken. So if you're looking for a very, very easy operator that has good impact on the round with a good gun, Rook is definitely the person to do it, especially if you are new to the game. But the higher you get in the echelon of play and the more you play the game, Rook is going to become less and less useful just because people hit heads more often than they don't. Now, if you're on console, then Rook is still pretty good no matter what elo you're in, because people don't hit heads as often on console as they do on PC. But if you're on PC, don't be playing Rook in super high elo unless you're trying to spawn peek. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into my number 1 spot. The best defender in Operation Dread Factor right now, by far, zero question by zero surprise, is Azami. Azami is an outstanding operator. She essentially has 5 deployable shields. Now, I've talked about in my past videos how deployable shields are very, very good. Just like the 1.5 times scope, if an operator has a deployable shield or doesn't have a deployable shield, it can completely change whether they're played or if they're in the meta. Take Smoke, for example. He doesn't have a shield anymore, and a lot less people are playing him. Now, there are certain people who roam with Smoke or just play behind their teammate's shield with Smoke, which still makes him good, but let's talk about another example. Alibi. The second they took away Alibi's shield, no one's playing her anymore at all. So a shield can be very defining. Azami doesn't have 1 shield, not 2, not 3, but 5 shields, and these shields she can throw anywhere. They're ranged shields. So it's overall really good. She also has a pretty good SMG to back it up, as well as a deagle if you want to make any sort of head holes, feet holes, whatever holes you want to make for the site setup. And then she also has barbed wire for information if you're playing your life in a position, or she has impacts if you're more just kind of playing to have fun. Azami also has a wildly high skill ceiling, meaning that the better you get at Azami, the more potential she has to be able to unlock newer and better things to do as her. I have tons of TikToks and tons of YouTube shorts on crazy Azami lineups that are really good, so if you want to learn more about what I'm talking about with Azami specifically, make sure you go down to my channel and you look at my shorts. Azami can completely change whether you win or lose a round, especially on certain maps where she can be very powerful because of her lineups, which is why she is so meta defining. She is one of the most meta operators in Rainbow Six Siege, and they haven't changed her at all, meaning why would she not be meta? I think out of all of the operators on this list, she has the most amount of impact in a round the better you are at her, and that is why I think she is the #1 best defender in all of Rainbow Six Siege right now for ranked. With that out of the way, that's it for the entire video. My name is Alka, sub to the channel down below, like the video if you liked it, and I will see y'all in the next video. Later.